Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Polina, and in today's video I want to share with you a situation related to medical system in Germany that really shocked me. To give you a little bit of context of who I am and how long I'm living in Germany, I'm originally from Russia and my husband is Spanish, and we are living in Germany in the southern part in Bavaria. We moved to Germany 3 years ago, and before that we were living in Spain for 6 years, and before that I also lived in Finland for 2 years when I was studying in my university. So I kind of have an idea of what's it like to be an expat, not only in Germany and not only in Bavaria, but yeah, in different places in Europe. So let's just dive into it. The situation that happened to us is actually related to my daughter's pediatricians, which is why I think it was even more frustrating and more like I was really angry about it. But let's start from the beginning. If you are not familiar, if you're not living in Germany, the way the medical system here is organized, it's really different than anything I've seen before. So everywhere else I lived in the past, the way it worked with like whatever doctor, pediatrician or just your general doctor, you would be basically assigned to a certain medical facility based on your neighborhood. Usually you couldn't really choose, of course, unless you go into the private ones, but the regular governmental medical facilities, they would be assigned to you based on where you're living. In Germany though, you kind of have to look for your doctor. You don't get automatically assigned to anyone, and that was already a little bit frustrating when we moved here because it was different from anywhere else we were living before, and it's sometimes really hard to find a doctor. When we came and we're completely new in this town where we don't know anyone, we were calling different praxis, as they are called here. We would be asking them if they can become our doctors, and one after another they would say that they don't have any spots left and they don't accept any new patients. So it was really difficult to find a normal general like Hausarzt in the beginning, and that was like the first thing that was a little bit frustrating for us, but fine, we ended up finding one and everything was fine. On the other hand, with the pediatrician, my daughter, who is now 2 years old, they do get assigned to a pediatrician from when she was born, and everything was fine. In the beginning we would have certain compulsory revisions, I don't know, at 1 month, at 3 months, then there were vaccinations and so on. So all of that was going quite smoothly. I was really happy with it. Their office was only 5 minutes away from our house, and everything was going well. Until my daughter started to go to the kindergarten at 1 year old, or Kinderkrippe as it's called here, and she started to get sick. So instead of having only these compulsory revisions, she started to get sick, which is of course normal for little kids. And that's when problems started to begin with our pediatrician office. Not the doctor itself, but the office. I would call the reception and I kind of had to always fight to get an appointment. So one time, for example, my daughter had fever and then a rash, and on the phone they told me, oh, if she has a rash after a fever, that means it's already not contagious. It's fine, you don't need to come here. Everything is fine. First of all, why are you giving me a medical advice? You are the reception, you're not a doctor. Second of all, why are you giving me medical advice when you haven't seen my daughter? Like, that was literally on the phone. And why are you not giving me an appointment to check her? So that was super weird. That was one of the first like really frustrating situations, and that kind of kept happening. At some point I was already like, if my daughter got a normal cold, I wouldn't even bother anymore calling them or trying to get an appointment, because I knew that it would be a struggle to get an appointment. They would not pick up the phone sometimes, and when they did pick up the phones, it was just like I had to fight for any appointment. And then another really frustrating situation happened when my daughter was supposed to have a compulsory revision at 2 years old, and I called the office to get an appointment. I actually waited for her birthday because I thought if I call too early, they're not gonna give me an appointment if she's not 2 years old yet. So I actually waited for her birthday and like called maybe 2 days after her birthday, and they tell me I'm calling too late and that's it. I cannot get an appointment for this any longer. I missed the chance, and for 1 year she's not gonna have this medical revision. Keep in mind that the previous revision was 1 year before that, so it was already like 1 year since the doctor saw her and checked her. I was really surprised, and I actually started talking with my insurance company and asking them like, is it possible, can they do this? And they told me like, no, actually 2 months after birthday they should still be able to give you an appointment. So I was like back and forth fighting with them, and they just said no. They didn't give me an appointment for a compulsory medical revision for my daughter. So this story is still not the final story of how I was shocked, but this story is very important to tell because of what happens next. So because of these continuous fights with our pediatrician's office, because of this inability to get appointments, and because of this situation with a compulsory medical revision, which they just refused to give me, I wrote a bad review on their Google page. And I already before that was checking their Google page, and I saw that a lot of people were complaining about the same things. The receptionists don't reply, don't answer the phone, or they don't give appointments, blah blah blah, like a lot of similar comments. And I also wrote that. But then after this situation, I wrote a really bad negative review, and I gave them 1 star, and I said they refused to give my daughter a medical revision, which is compulsory. The insurance confirmed that they should be able to do it, and so on and so on. A couple of days later, my daughter had actually an injury on her finger, nothing major, and again, because I know how it works, I didn't even bother to go to the pediatrician about it. So I took a picture of the nail. She had a nail injury, and I asked in a chat on the phone in the application to check if it's okay, how it's healing, blah blah blah. And then I see a reply from my daughter's pediatrician. Yes, the nail is fine. And by the way, since you wrote a really bad negative review, and I understand that you're really unsatisfied with our office, from now on we're not giving you any longer any appointments at our practice. To me, that was that they basically rejected my daughter from medical assistance. When I read that, my first thought was that has to be illegal. Like, that cannot possibly be legal. Because of a Google review, you are telling me that my daughter cannot get a medical assistance at your office anymore. And on top of that, it wasn't even true, because in my Google review, I actually specifically said I'm really happy with the pediatrician, but the office and the reception is really bad. They don't give appointments and blah blah blah. When I was writing that Google review, I actually thought I was doing something good, because I thought that I'm going to attract the attention of the doctor to this issue, that it's his praxis and it's just not working well, and it's destroying the reputation as well. But he himself, the pediatrician himself, wrote me that message saying that that's it, from now on my daughter cannot get any more appointments. Which, to be fair, she was already not getting any appointments, but them saying that, like officially announcing that from now on she's not getting any more appointments, for me that was like they are refusing to give my daughter medical assistance, which cannot possibly be legal. But it appears, as we later started to investigate this issue, and I also shared the story online already before, it appears that it's not illegal, it happens all the time in Germany. I've heard stories of people saying that even without like writing any negative review, just putting 1 star, they were also kind of like kicked out of a certain praxis. And this situation really shocked me, and it made me so angry that I literally thought like I need to report him and so on. But yeah, it seems like there's really nothing that can be done. Let me guys know in the comments if anything similar happened to you or you've heard about this before. As I said, like, yeah, when I started to investigate this and shared it, it appears that like this happens all the time, and I heard many other stories. But to me, when this happened, I was really shocked. And if you are from here and you know that it's like not okay to do this, What would you do in my position? Is there anything that can be done? Let me know. The problem of this whole story as well is that in our town, we live in a really small Bavarian town, that in the whole town we had 2 pediatricians. The one that we had who rejected me and my daughter, and another one which had horrible Google reviews, but still I called them to ask them to become my pediatrician, because I was like, okay, my daughter still needs a pediatrician for emergencies and so on. And they said that they don't accept any new patients either. So we were left without pediatrician in our town. And a few months already passed since then. So it actually appeared that kids can go to a normal adult doctor here. So my daughter has been going to my house arts since then, and I actually have been quite happy with it. But of course it's still not ideal, and they are not pediatricians and they're not specialized in kids. But yeah, here is the story, guys. Let me know what you think, and I hope it was useful or interesting in some way. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.